Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like your life was moving forward, but you were not the one driving it? Like every day was the same, and you were just following the rules that other people made for you? I felt like that for a long time. But one day, everything changed. It was the day I took control of my life for the first time. And in this story, I will tell you how I did it, step by step, and how you can do the same. Stay with me until the end, because this story may remind you of your own life in ways you never thought about. Chapter 1: The Feeling of Being Stuck. Before I tell you how I took control of my life, I need to tell you what it felt like before that day. I think you will understand, because maybe you have felt the same. My life was full of routines. I woke up, I went to school or work, I listened to what other people said, and I did what they expected. Every day looked the same. At first, I thought this was normal. I thought, this is just how life works. You wake up, you follow the rules, and you keep going. But deep inside, I felt something missing. I felt like my life was not really mine. It is like when you sit in a bus, but you are not the driver. The bus is moving. It is going fast, but you don't choose the road. You don't choose where it stops. You just sit there and hope it takes you somewhere good. That was my life. Other people made the choices, and I just followed. Maybe it was my parents, my teachers, my friends, or even society. They said, do this. Don't do that. Choose this path. Don't choose that one. And I listened because I was afraid to make mistakes. But after some time, the feeling grew stronger. I started to ask myself questions. Why am I doing this? Do I really want this? Am I happy? The answer was always no. I felt weak. I felt invisible, like my voice did not matter. Even when I smiled, inside, I was not smiling. And then came the hardest thought. If I continue like this, will my whole life be like this? Will I always be just a passenger waiting for someone else to decide my road? This thought scared me. It was the first time I realized that being stuck is not only about the present, it is also about the future. If I never take control, nothing will ever change. That moment of fear was the beginning of something new. Chapter 2: The Breaking Point. One day, something small happened, but it changed everything for me. I still remember it clearly. I was sitting in a classroom and the teacher asked a question. I knew the answer, but I stayed silent. Why? Because I was afraid to be wrong. Another student gave the answer, and it was the same answer I had in my mind. Everyone clapped, and the teacher praised that student. In that moment, I felt something heavy inside me. I thought, that could have been me. I knew the answer, but I was too afraid to speak. It may sound like a small thing, but it was not small for me. It showed me how many times I had missed chances, not because I was not ready, but because I did not believe in myself. How many doors stayed closed because I never tried to open them. That thought stayed with me all day. Later, I went home and sat quietly in my room. I looked at my books, my phone, my desk. Everything felt normal, but inside, I was not normal anymore. I felt angry with myself. Angry because I had let fear control me. Angry because I wanted more, but I always chose less. I asked myself a big question. If I keep living like this, what will happen in 5 years? 10 years? 20 years? The answer made me feel cold. I imagined myself older, still silent, still afraid, still waiting for life to change by itself. That night, I could not sleep. My mind kept saying, you have to do something. You cannot keep living like this. It was not just about speaking in class. It was about everything. About my choices, my dreams, my life. If I didn't stand up now, I would always stay down. That was the breaking point. The moment I realized that nothing would change until I decided to change. No one could live my life for me. No one could take control for me. I had to do it myself. And for the first time, I felt a small spark inside me. It was not big, but it was enough. Enough to make me say, tomorrow will be different. Chapter 3. The first step forward. The next morning, I woke up with a new thought in my mind. If I want to take control of my life, I have to start today. It felt strange, because usually I always said, I will start tomorrow. But this time, I did not want to wait. I wanted to prove to myself that I was serious. So I made a promise. I will do one thing today that I was always afraid to do. In school, the teacher asked another question. Again, I knew the answer. My heart started beating fast. My hands were shaking, and my mind was telling me to stay quiet, like always. But then I remembered my promise. I told myself, this is the moment. Say it. And I raised my hand. My voice was not loud, and I was nervous, but I gave the answer. The class was silent for a second, and then the teacher smiled. Correct, she said. That one word, correct, felt like a door opening inside me. It was such a small step, but it felt like a big victory. For the first time, I felt what it was like to fight fear and win. And that small victory gave me strength. That evening, when I went home, I started thinking, what else can I do that I was too afraid to do before? I wrote down a list of small things: talking to a classmate I didn't know well, reading a book in English out loud, asking for help when I needed it. None of these things were impossible, but I had always avoided them. Day by day, I began to choose action over fear. And every time I did, I felt a little stronger. I realized something very important. Control doesn't come from one big action. It comes from many small steps. Each small step makes the next one easier. Each small victory makes you believe more in yourself. Looking back now, I see that first step as the most important. Not because it was big, but because it was the beginning. Without that one small action, nothing else would have followed. That was the day I stopped waiting and started moving forward, one step at a time. Chapter 4. The Road of Change. When I look back, I see that everything started to change after that first small step. At first, the changes were not very big, but they were real. I noticed something important. The more I acted, the more I believed in myself. And the more I believed, the more I wanted to act. It was like a circle, a positive circle, that kept me moving forward. Before, I thought control meant waiting for the right moment, but now I understood control meant creating the right moment myself. One day, I decided to speak to a classmate I had never talked to before. Usually, I avoided new people because I thought, what if they don't like me? What if I say something wrong? But this time, I pushed that fear away. I said hello, asked a simple question, and to my surprise, the classmate smiled and answered. That small conversation grew into a friendship later, and I realized something powerful. When you take the first step, doors open. Another change came with my studies. Earlier, I used to give up when I didn't understand something. I thought, this is too hard. Maybe I'm not good enough. But after taking control, I started asking questions, looking for answers, and trying again. I was no longer afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes became part of learning. And each time I solved a problem, I felt proud, like I had taken control of my future. The road of change was not always easy. There were days when I wanted to go back to the old me, days when fear felt stronger. But I had a new habit, reminding myself of the first victory, the moment I raised my hand and gave the answer in class. That memory gave me courage. It told me, if you did it once, you can do it again. And slowly, step by step, I built a stronger version of myself. I realized that taking control is not about never being afraid. It is about feeling fear, but still moving forward. And with each step, life began to feel different, brighter, and more possible. That was the road of change, and I was finally walking on it. Chapter 5: The Test of Strength. The true test came when life put me in a difficult situation. One day, our teacher announced that each student had to give a short presentation in front of the class. For me, this was my biggest fear. Speaking in front of everyone felt like standing in the middle of a storm, with all eyes watching me. Before, I would have tried to hide, make an excuse, or hope the teacher forgot my name. But this time, something inside me whispered, "You have taken control once. You can do it again." The night before the presentation, I wanted to give up. My hands were shaking even as I prepared my notes. I thought, what if I forget my words? What if they laugh at me? But then I remembered the first step, the conversation with my classmate, the small victories that gave me confidence. I told myself, this is not the end. This is just another chance to grow. That thought gave me enough strength to keep practicing. The next day, when my name was called, I stood up slowly. My heart was beating fast, but I walked to the front of the room. At first, my voice was soft, almost lost in the silence. But then I looked up and saw my classmates waiting, and I remembered, I was not here to be perfect. I was here to try. So I spoke louder. The more I spoke, the more I felt control returning to me. Each word became easier. Each sentence gave me courage. When I finished, there was silence for a moment, and then applause. It was not loud, but it was enough. Enough to make me realize I had passed the test. The strength I found that day was not in my voice, but in my choice. I chose not to run away. I chose to face the fear, and that choice changed me more than anything else. That day I understood something important. Strength does not mean you never fall. Strength means you stand up again, even when your knees are shaking. And that was the lesson I carried with me as I continued my journey of taking control of my life. Chapter 6: A New Beginning. After that day, everything started to look different. I was still the same person, but I felt like I had a new power inside me. It was not magic. It was not luck. It was simply the power of taking control, one step at a time. I realized that life will always bring challenges. Sometimes it will be fear, sometimes doubt, sometimes failure. But now I knew the truth. I could choose how to respond. That choice was mine, and that was real freedom. I began to see small changes in my daily life. When a problem came, instead of complaining, I asked myself, what can I do right now? When people doubted me, I didn't feel angry. I felt motivated to keep going. Even my friends noticed something was different. One of them asked me, "How did you become so confident?" I smiled and said, "It started the day I decided to take control." The journey was not easy, and it was not quick. Some days I felt strong, and some days I still felt weak. But the difference was that I no longer gave up. Every time I fell, I stood again. Every time I failed, I learned something new. Slowly, my life became less about fear and more about hope. Less about waiting and more about doing. Looking back now, I understand that the day I took control of my life for the first time was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new one, a story where I was not just a passenger, but the driver. A story where I was not waiting for someone to save me, but learning to save myself. And that is the greatest gift anyone can discover. So, if you are listening to me now, remember this. You don't need to wait for a perfect day, a perfect chance, or a perfect person. You can start today. You can take control of your life right now. All it takes is one decision, one step, and one moment of courage. That moment can change everything, just like it changed me. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own life, then don't stop here. Take your first step today. And if you want more stories like this, more lessons that can help you learn English, and also inspire your life, then subscribe to this channel. Press the like button so more people can find this video, and write a comment below to share your own story. Maybe your words will inspire someone else, just like mine inspired you. Remember, every story matters, and your story could be the next one that changes a life. So stay with me, subscribe, like, and comment, and let's keep learning, growing, and taking control together.